Okay, let's talk about one of the most powerful and kind of invisible forces shaping our lives, our expectations. We're going to dive into this simple but pretty profound idea. What you believe about someone can literally change who they become.
I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But what if I told you that your simple, unspoken thoughts about a person could actually make them smarter, more confident, and more successful? Or do the exact opposite? Let's find out how that's even possible. So, at the very heart of this is something psychologists call a self-fulfilling prophecy. The easiest way to think about it is like a feedback loop, a really powerful cycle that can start with just a single thought you have about somebody else.
And here's the official name for it, the Pygmalion Effect. Yeah, it's named after an old Greek myth, but its power is very, very real. The whole idea is simple. When we expect great things from people, they tend to rise to the occasion.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you can see how the whole loop works. It breaks down into 4 steps. Step 1, it all starts with our beliefs about someone. That belief then influences step 2, our actions toward them. Then, our actions directly impact step 3, their beliefs about themselves. And finally, their new self-perception drives step 4, their actions, which, you guessed it, circles right back around and reinforces our original belief. It's a perfect, powerful circle. All right, I know this might sound a little abstract, so let's make it real. Let's look at a story that plays out every single day in sports, in offices, and even in families.
Okay, picture a basketball coach with 2 new players, Chris and Joe. The coach looks at Chris and thinks, you know what, this kid has real potential. But when he looks at Joe, for whatever reason, he's unconsciously reminded of a difficult player he coached years ago. So what happens? He invests in Chris. He's giving him extra feedback, encouragement, more playing time. But with Joe, he's distant, maybe a little critical. Well, Chris feels valued, and he just blossoms. Joe, on the other hand, feels ignored, starts to doubt his own skills, and you know what? Eventually, he just stops trying. And here's the real kicker. At the end of the season, the coach says this to himself. But his instincts weren't right. He didn't predict the outcome. He actually created it. That's the crucial part. His initial biased expectation set that entire chain of events in motion. Now, if you're feeling a little skeptical, that's totally fair. I mean, an anecdote is just an anecdote, right? But what happens when we put this whole effect under the microscope of some serious scientific research?
Well, check out this fascinating experiment by a researcher named Robert Rosenthal. He gave students identical lab rats, but he told one group their rats were maze geniuses and told the other group that their rats were, well, maze dull. And the result? The so-called genius rats consistently crushed it, outperforming the dull ones every time. So why? It wasn't magic. The students expecting brilliance just handled their rats with more care, more encouragement, and more attention. Their belief changed their behavior.
So Rosenthal then took this incredible finding from rats in a lab to kids in a real-world classroom. He told teachers that, based on some special new test, certain students were academic bloomers, just poised for a major intellectual growth spurt. The secret? Those students were actually chosen completely at random. And this chart just says it all. I mean, look at this. At the end of the school year, the bloomers group, the ones picked out of a hat, showed way higher gains in their IQ scores. Just look at the difference in those 2 bars. And remember, there was no actual difference between these kids to begin with. The only difference was in the minds of their teachers. I mean, this is the stunning conclusion, you guys. The teachers' beliefs translated into more attention, more encouragement, and more challenging work for those kids. And in turn, it literally made those students smarter. The expectation became the reality.
So, if high expectations can lift people up, it kind of makes sense that low expectations can drag them down, right? And that brings us to the dark twin of the Pygmalion Effect.
It's called the Golem Effect. It's the exact same psychological loop, it's just running in reverse. When we expect someone to fail or underperform, our actions towards them often, without us even realizing it, make sure that they do. Think about in a workplace. A manager quietly decides an employee is lazy. So they stop giving them important assignments, they don't check in as much, they don't offer them opportunities to grow. The employee senses this, right? They feel devalued, they get disengaged, and well, they start acting lazy, which just reinforces the manager's original bad assumption. Okay, this all might sound a little bleak, I know, but here's the best part. Just by understanding this loop, we get the power to change it. We can actually, consciously, decide to build positive cycles instead of getting stuck in the negative ones. So, how do we actually do it? Well, it's basically a 3-step process. First, awareness. You just have to ask yourself, who have I maybe mentally written off? Then you have to take action. Find the Joes in your life and give them the same kind of feedback and opportunities you give your Chris's. And finally, this is the most powerful part. You reinforce a new belief. You start treating people not just as they are, but as who you know they're capable of becoming. And this really is the fundamental takeaway from all of this. This principle shows us that we're not just passive observers, reacting to what's happening around us. No way. Through our beliefs and expectations, we are actively co-creating our reality every single day. The Pygmalion Effect is a tool you can use absolutely everywhere. With your colleagues at work, with your kids at home, and maybe most importantly, with yourself. Because the expectations you hold for your own potential, that can be the most powerful self-fulfilling prophecy of all. So, I'll leave you with this question to really think about. Now that you know this, what are you going to choose to expect from the people around you and from yourself starting right now?